Working on a 1998 Buick Park Avenue, the 3.8 V6. Throttle body is right here. I'm going to pull it off. It's just me by myself, so I can't video and work at the same time, so I'll do an update as soon as I've got it off. Here's a service note on this Buick 3.8. To get the throttle body off, there's a bracket down here, a support bracket, and in order to get the bolt off at the bottom and to get the bottom throttle body bolt off, you've got to take off the exhaust crossover here, and it goes from this side of the engine back over to the other side, and I'm taking that off right now, and I'll give you any notes after I'm finished. Okay, I finally got throttle body off, and trust me, if you're going to work on one of these, before you start, get a stud kit for the exhaust, because I soaked them down with PB Blaster, worked them back and forth, was real careful, and ended up twisting both studs off. So that's going to be a major issue to fix that. So just a little forewarning there. And I'll show you the throttle body here after it's off. Here we go. Here's the baby right here. And I will give you a further update. Okay, on this throttle body, after doing a little bit of inspection, I cleaned a bunch of the junk out of there. And it seems that right in this area down here seems very thin wall right there. And over on this side is probably some kind of an electronic idle. And I took it off here. You can see, oops, you can see it there, and it goes on here and it adjusts the throttle shaft electronically. But I can't really tell how thick that is in there, but I think it's going to be okay. But down over here, I can see that it's very thin right in there, and I'm sure it's going to grind through there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in that pocket in there with the JB weld, so it's got a lot of meat there when I do the grinding, so I don't have to do any filling later. And it looks like every place else is going to be just about fine. You can see it's pretty thick right in here, and I'm not going to go that deep down into this chamber, most likely, I hope. So I'm going to fill in that area there and let it cure really good before I do the groove. And we'll see what happens. I'll give you another update after that. I took some cleaner and I cleaned all the grease out of there, and I'm going to use this pick and I'm going to rough this area up in here to expose the bare aluminum so that the JB weld will adhere a little bit better. So I'll do that, and then I'll show as I put the JB weld in. Okay, as you can see, I have filled that whole cavity in there with the JB weld, and I'm actually I've got to use this car, so I'm going to put it all back together, and I will let it cure for at least 24 hours before I come back and do the groove. Until next time. Okay, I cut the groove in here, and as we discussed before, this is an awfully thin throttle body. And over in this area here, let me see here, I can set it down. Over in this area here, I put in some JB weld on the outside before I ever started to build up the wall thickness. And it did cut into the JB weld there, I can see. But where I didn't expect it was over on this side here. It's really thin, and it went through. You can see from the outside, pretty big hole there. And also with this electronic idle adjustment here, there's a bearing in there that holds the throttle shaft, and it actually right over in here, it cut through and actually touched the bearing. So that's a bad thing for the cutter. I didn't mean to do that, and might have possibly damaged the cutter a little bit. I hope not, but you know, I don't know how you know these things until you get in there. So anyway, I'm gonna fix that that gap there with some JB weld, and we'll recut that a little bit and go from there. Before the groove job, The average mileage is 20.8 miles per gallon. That is mixed driving, and I will be doing the exact same kind of driving after the job so that we'll have a great comparison. Okay, got the groove cut, and it took a little bit of modification to do it on both sides. Let me show you here. Down in here it's very thin, and over in here it's very thin. You can see where the JB weld is. What I had to do is I had to put on JB weld on the outside there, and I had to put it over on this side over here, and then recut the groove, and it's all good now, good to go. And just remember that this thing here hooks onto the throttle shaft, and inside there is a bearing. So right in here, up in this corner, there is a bearing, and you will go through and touch that bearing. So be sure not to cut all the way up to the throttle shaft. I had to stop a little bit short of it right in here. I had to stop right in here to keep from hitting that bearing right up in there. So just take those into consideration when you do these throttle bodies on the Buick 3.8 V6. 665.8 miles after the modification. The mileage is now 24.3 miles per gallon. It started at 20.8. That's a 3.5 mile per gallon increase, which would be about 14%. And it's been as high as 25 miles per gallon. It depends on the driving conditions, but after the 600 and some miles, it settled down around the 24.3, 24.4. But just as a note, the 20.3 miles per gallon, or the 20.8 miles per gallon before, had a lot more highway miles in it than I've been driving lately. So it has been a lot more city miles, but it has been 3.5 miles per gallon increase, about 14%. And I would say it will be going up over a little bit more time, and definitely worth doing the modification.